I'm Deborah Pranis and welcome to Olsem Wanem. The 2016 Leaders Summit was held in Port Moresby last week. The two-day summit was the fourth of its kind, hosted by the Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill. The summit brought together political leaders, public servants, and members of various organizations to discuss challenges and developments in different sectors, such as the economy, infrastructure, to health and education. Here are some of the highlights.
I'm going to give them the headline this morning. Please can we have in the newspapers and on the news tomorrow and tonight that the government is not broke. All right? The government is not broke.
I see the Honourable Minister Tommy Tomskol in front of me. Let me make one comment. I read in the newspapers a lot of nonsense about Japan. Minister Tomskol, every country is protecting its agriculture. From the US to Australia, New Zealand, you name them. If we can produce at a lower cost from our imports, sell it at a lower cost, don't pay attention, forget the criticism. Forget it. Because this is what we are here for, to take care of our people and not whoever is producing in Australia, New Zealand, or whenever he is living. Thank you very much.
But on the issue of women, I would like to make one comment, which is this whole 2 days, if you looked at the program, it is dominated by men speaking. And I, for one, do not believe that women leaders are not there in Papua New Guinea who can speak for themselves, who have a contribution to make.
The average cost of investigating one serious crime in 2008, as we've indicated, was 17,000 kina. Today, it is double that cost to about 35,000 kina to investigate one serious crime if it's reported.
We are trying to avoid the shocks that are beyond our control. So in 2016 budget, as we presented in Parliament, we have in fact reduced spending to well below 2015 levels. This was done because we were very much aware of the changes that were happening in the global economy. However, in 2016, the budget went beyond trying to preserve some of the core policies of our government. That is in the areas of education, areas of health, areas of law and order, and of course, the critical infrastructure that we need to develop our country. The budget maintains this spending, and this was done without increasing any taxes to businesses or any taxes to individuals. Of course, these are tough times. But it is vital that we continue as a government to maintain business confidence and, of course, encourage consumer spending. We must be very proactive in seeking to boost the investment and the economic growth that we want for our country.
Welcome back. Since the introduction of the tuition fee-free policy, or TFF, there's been a lot of debates on this policy. Are schools benefiting from TFF? Are schools receiving TFF? And are students receiving quality education? With that said, there's also a lot of confusion among parents and guardians in the payment of project fees. Education remains one of PNG government's key priority. Over the years, not too many people were able to afford sending their children to school. Also, history has seen more boys attending school than girls. But this is gradually changing.
Globally, there is evidence that each additional year of education that we give to a child will raise GDP by 0.37%. Each extra year of education increases on an individual's earning by 10%. If a child is literate, we can reduce poverty. And if a girl receives basic primary education, we can reduce maternal death by 2/3. Therefore, the bold decision, the life-changing decision that the government has taken to bring in tuition fee-free policy has given that opportunity and is going to make that difference in Papua New Guinea.
It's important because they support and protect the land. How do they support and protect the land?
In 2012, the government introduced its tuition fee-free policy to eliminate tuition fees for students from elementary up to grade 10. Since its introduction, more money has been pumped in to cater for the policy. The government's aim is to ensure that all school-aged children be able to receive universal basic education. In 2015 alone, 605 million kina was provided in the national budget for tuition fee-free policy, seeing more children enrolled into schools.
The government has invested by the end of this year 2.76 billion kina in TFF.
At the moment, PNG has a total of 11,224 schools registered. Of this, 10,600 schools have been receiving TFF. 2014 and 2015 has seen a total number of 1.98 million students, which is expected to be over 2 million this year. The number of teachers have also increased to 52,832, which is heavily outweighed by the number of students, thus questioning the quality of education in the country. There's been a lot of challenges in terms of increasing enrollments, student-teacher ratio, school infrastructure, and funds. Over the years, there's also been much debate surrounding the tuition fee-free policy. Are schools really benefiting from TFF? Are schools really receiving TFF? And are students receiving quality education?
Mr. Pollier emphasized on quality-oriented education that should be the root of any system implemented in a country. However, with limited resources, many aren't achievable.
The systems must be quality-oriented and improve the capacity and the facilities at school. And that is part of the scientific approach that I talked about.
Meanwhile, students' enrollment this year is estimated to be far greater than expected because of the government's tuition fee-free education policy.
To collect all the school census that we collect from the schools into that committee, and that committee will ensure that the schools are correct, or included or excluded.
And these schools have been charging project fees since the introduction of the tuition fee-free funds 4 years ago.
Project fee 400 kina
Following the government's announcement last week on schools to charge project fees this year, some parents are still confused but have chosen to do deposits anyway to secure spaces for their children.
Mi blame also whether this project fee will pay monogat. That's why I'm putting this monitor solo. Safeguarding or beginning from
In the 2016 Leaders Summit that was held last week in Port Moresby, Acting Secretary for Education, Dr. Uke Kombra, gives a feedback to some of these challenges.
One of the challenges that we continue to face is in enrollment figures. Because the tuition fee is paid to schools based on enrollment, we have cases where the teachers or schools actually inflate the enrollments. But we are now putting into place, under a single policy, some strategies that will ensure that there is a quality in the enrollment figures that we collect. We also hear about in the newspapers many times not reporting on good things, but few things like not one school is not receiving its TFF. Let me make it very clear that there are 4 basic minimum standards that we set to ensure that the money is reaching schools that are existing. We have to act responsibly. 1, the school must be registered and must have a registration code. 2, it must have enrollment for the last 2 years. 3, it must have an operating account that is active. And 4, there must be teachers on the payroll in that school. So if those 4 minimum requirements are met, we can guarantee your school will be paid your TFF. I know many members of parliament and other leaders in public do come out to say that their schools are not receiving TFF. But these are the 4 basic requirements that we make, that we must comply. One of the effects also with TFF is the schools that are well managed with good governing boards, with good administration, they are making difference and there is quality education at the school level.
Welcome back. Like the tuition fee-free policy in education, the government introduced its free primary healthcare policy, which came into effect in 2014. During the 2016 Leaders Summit, Secretary for Health, Pascal Kase, gave us an insight on the impact of health indicators from the free and subsidized healthcare. With 80% of the country's population in remote areas, access to healthcare services remains a challenge. Some troubling health issues in PNG include maternal mortality, infant mortality, communicable diseases such as malaria and TB, and waterborne diseases. The government then introduced its free primary healthcare policy.
One of the priorities of this government is the free primary healthcare and subsidized specialist services. The free primary healthcare was introduced in 2014 with amendments to existing USAP policies and regulations on hospital charges. The free primary health care and subsidized policy is currently being implemented nationwide. Health service managers and the department fully understand the government's objective to improve access to health care and is actively supporting the measures in health services to end use of fees from primary health care and specialist services. We recognize that this important step toward achieving universal health coverage by reducing barriers to access of health services.
In February 2014, the free primary healthcare policy came into effect, allowing Papua New Guineans to access free basic healthcare. The free primary and subsidized healthcare led to an increase of admissions and outpatient attendances at clinics and hospitals. The Secretary for Health, Pasco Kase, highlighted some of the challenges in the 2016 Leaders Summit.
Challenges in supporting health services to implement these policies are impacted by delays in the increase of health function grants. It is important that funds to compensate, and that's the money that to compensate what was collected by facilities in the past. That for this loss, the revenue are released early to health facilities so they don't create unnecessary charging to our people. Despite the delays, however, since the introduction of the free healthcare policy, there has been a 37% increase in admissions and 26% increases in outpatient attendance to our health facilities. So we can say that ordinary Papua New Guineans are now accessing health services in greater numbers than before.
Over the years, investment in the health sector has increased.
Government's investment in the health sector from 2013 to 2016. The above graph demonstrates that funding to the health sector has been increased by up to 9.7% per year, maintaining this spending at around 2 to 3% of GDP. Our government's own contribution to health in 2016, 1.6 billion kina. It must be noted that the development partners' expenditures to health constitute around 380 million kina per year.
This year alone, the government has allocated 8 million kina to eradicate TB and malaria in the country.
Malaria. The fight against malaria demonstrates what can be done with strong collaborations with donors and NGOs. In this case, the Global Fund and Rotarians Against Malaria have been very important partners to the government. We are now in a position that we should be aiming to eliminate malaria over the coming years, just like our other Pacific neighbors, with a good trend of achievement that we are seeing in malaria. Demonstrated reduction from more than 300 cases per 1,000 people in a year in year 2000 is now down to 79 cases per 1,000 in 2014. We need to learn from this experience and continue to focus our efforts on the major diseases which are posing challenges for our country. We have made a good start with TB, and we need to redouble our efforts. With the support we are receiving from our Prime Minister and the government, significant inroads have been made. We just identified 8 million kina from our own government to address the TB situation in Western Province. As we speak, our team from the Health Department and the World Health Organization and the partners from fighting TB in Western Province are in Daru now to see what are the latest updates on TB on the ground. Our challenge is to respond to the many health challenges by making best use of the scarce resources and building on the extensive investment which have been made over the last few years. We will focus our energy on addressing our emerging issues such as TB and the non-communicable diseases, which are increasing, impacting on our communities. Lack of leadership and management at provincial and hospital levels require private sector inputs in managing public service.
80% of our people depend heavily on agriculture, and less than 2% of the country's landmass is used for agriculture. Despite this, agriculture generates an export revenue of 2 billion kina annually. According to Agriculture Secretary, the challenge is in turning our farmers into business-minded people. Whether you're next to the sea, next to a river, or up in the mountains, we Papua New Guineans have one thing in common. We all depend heavily on agriculture. PNG has a population of over 7 million people. Of this, 6.1 million people depend on agriculture daily. Less than 2% of the country's landmass is used for agriculture. And despite using just less than 2% of the land, agriculture generates an export revenue of 2 billion kina. This is according to Agriculture Secretary Dr. Ilava Pat.
We've consistently contributed over 25% to GDP. Just by using less than 2% of the land that is suitable for agriculture in this country, we have an export revenue of 2 billion. Less than 2% of the land that is suitable for agriculture, and we are generating 2 billion annually. The fresh fruit industry generates another 2 billion, and 85 to 87% of the population depend on agriculture daily.
According to the District Profile 2010 by the National Research Institute, 20 out of 22 provinces are agriculture provinces, and 84 out of 89 districts in the country are agriculture districts, which means over 80% of economic activity is under agriculture. However, our farmers continue to face many challenges in the agriculture sector. This includes lack of infrastructure, difficulty in sourcing finance for agriculture, foreign currency challenges, land issues, and logistics and transportation.
I have a slide here showing cocoa farmers from Morobe and Oro border coming down in rafts to sell their cocoa bags. There's about 6 or 7 rafts here, and they put their cocoa bags and float them down to sell. That is the challenge, that is the difficulty that our farmers are having. The same can be said for coffee, the same can be said for rubber, the same can be said for coconut. Our farmers are working very hard, and these are the farmers who contribute to the 2 billion kina annually.
Despite these challenges, PNG continues to produce quality in agriculture.
PNG agricultural products are some of the best in the world. We have won Cocoa International Prizes, awards in coffee, awards in tea, and I'm glad to hear that also in Olsem we are up there with the best. PNG agriculture is right up there in the top. Last year, the farmers from Watwood won a prize. They went to Paris. Every year we've been winning cocoa and coffee excellence prizes all over the world. Give me that number 2 here. What's wrong with us? Why aren't we supporting the sector? The challenge is not to go by volume. The challenge is to work our strength. Our strength is quality.
During the 2016 Leaders Summit, Secretary for Agriculture, Dr. Pat, stressed on assisting farmers with entrepreneur skills.
A new agriculture extension agribusiness model. We are hoping to sign up this arrangement quickly so that we can. Our farmers and our people are very good at planting. Like I said, 10,000 years of history of agriculture. What they don't have is agribusiness and entrepreneurship. So we would like to train them to be business people. We are looking at an education model which is called a business class education model. I think it's championed by Sam Tam, who was the founder of the Fred Passing Store. His education system is about making money to create wealth. Making money to create wealth. And he teaches his students to connect with the farm customer. To pass his course, you have to make money. So you are forced to link up with the market. This is the missing link that we've had in our system, in agriculture. Our farmers are very good at producing, but they have not been given the business entrepreneurship skills. Our people at home, they don't care about GDP and GNI, and they just want money in their pockets. They don't want to talk about GDP and GNI and all this. All like in money or pocket roll. That is the indicator that we are using in developing our programs. Let me close up with that. For far too long, we've been trying to teach our farmers how to grow. All expert finish now. We're wasting time doing ceremony. It's about teaching them to be business people.
And that's all we have for Olsem Wanem. If you have any comments or stories you would like to share, please send us a message via the email address showing on your screen or visit our Facebook page. From the Olsem Wanem team, it's goodbye for now.